Welcome friends to another Stuff Station 1 review from my collection of random items across a broad price range. Items are showcased for their aesthetics, materials, manufacturing or downright quirkiness. Now, today's product here is another watch that I've got in by Hamilton. Okay, if we have a look at the actual packaging, nothing to really sort of write home about. I've reviewed another Hamilton khaki the other day and pretty much the same story really. The packaging, simple carded sort of box, simple sort of carded and sort of light polymer based box. We can actually see here we've got the pull out instruction manual, warranty card, and everything sort of as you'd expect, fairly sort of logically laid out in the actual book, and a little bit of a space there underneath for the extra links. Okay, so pop that back in there. Now if we have a look at the piece itself, we open it up, okay, and this one is what's known as the Jazzmaster Open Heart. Okay, now this particular one, I'm a bit of a sucker for skeletonized watches, and I like this one purely because, you know, it is quite a dressy sort of piece, but at the same time it's been fairly well executed. I mean, it's not without its faults, and I'll go into that sort of shortly. I'll take it off the actual cushion, so put that to one side so you guys can see. It has a sapphire crystal. Okay, stainless steel construction, 20 millimeter lugs there. It's an automatic and it utilizes the base sort of ETA 2824-2 movement, and again I'll touch on that a little bit later. Now it has a very sort of a traditional look to it, yet it sort of allows you to sort of peek into the inner workings of the actual movement itself. It's 11 millimeters thick, and it has also a skeletonized back at the same time. It's got just a sort of a push-in crown, so no sort of screw down crown there. What's actually really nice is the traditional sort of Hamilton logo there. It's not sort of just a very simple sort of a H font there, but they've utilized that sort of traditional logo that sort of goes back right to the sort of the 40s and 50s really. It's a real mixture of sort of brushed and polished sort of aesthetic. So if we have a look at the lugs here, we can see some brushing there, but then if you look at these sort of bevels, you know, that's been sort of faceted. We've got some nice sort of polishing work going on, and again with the actual case sides, and the actual case itself, I really like it. It's got this sort of quite futuristic sort of look about it really. It's all sort of a one piece, I believe it's a one piece sort of construction, but we can see that, you know, it's been done and it sort of tapers in sort of in a very sort of a slender sort of manner there. Friends, why not subscribe, like and share? Also tap that bell icon. I put out content every week, so your support would be really appreciated. We can actually see that the bezel is actually fixed. Okay, the dial itself, really nice. It's got this sort of sunburst sort of blue dial to it, and what's really nice, I think the hands have been done in that sort of Dolphin style, and it just looks really quite sort of elegant there. We can actually see some applied markers, the Arabic numerals at 12, 3, 6 and 9, and they've been sort of machined out quite nicely and applied on there, so it does give it that sort of bit of depth there. The dial, you know, on first glance, you know, it is quite busy, you know, these sort of cutout sections, very sort of stylized. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm sort of, you know, in love with it straight away. Hopefully I will be over the course of time, but you know, it does take a bit of getting used to there, and we can see that, you know, it's been opened up into various different sort of segments there, as opposed to the normal traditional sort of circular sort of open heart aesthetic that you find on some watches. So hats off to them. They are sort of trying to sort of push the aesthetic boat out. Now what we can actually see is the actual dial, you know, it does have a slight sort of angled step to it. What's also nice is that sort of Hamilton traditional H logo on there, and you know, the actual cutout, it's been sort of punched out quite nicely. There's no real sort of like rough edges or anything like that to it, and what we can see is the movement behind it with some really nice sort of perlage work. We can see the balance there sort of moving backwards and forwards, so that's been done really nice. And there is AR coating to it, very sort of light, but at the same time just enough to give it that sort of good anti-reflective sort of quality. Now, as I said before, it does utilize the sort of the standard ETA 2824 movement. It has a power reserve of around 38 hours, which is a little bit poor, okay, you know, considering that most movements nowadays can go up to 70 sort of hours. But in order to do that, what they would have had to have done was to reduce the frequency there, so you wouldn't have got a nicer sort of smooth sweep then. The only thing, the upside to using the ETA is that, you know, it's a reliable workhorse, and, you know, it will really last the test of time. The bracelet is actually fantastic. It's really nice how they've made it. So if we look at it very carefully, again, a combination of brushed and polished edges, and, you know, that's going to take a bit of time on each of these pieces. We can see these angles and bevels that have been sort of polished, but yet the rest of it has this sort of satin finish. The double deployant butterfly clasp, again, really nice, signatured there with Hamilton. Little bit loose there. I wonder over the course of time if that's going to sort of hold up. What's also quite nice is they've done the perlage work on the double deployant there, so that's actually quite nice to see. But one sort of big no-no for me is the actual bracelet itself. You've got the traditional sort of push pin and collar sort of system there, so that is really sort of dated now, but obviously they've had to cut a few sort of manufacturing corners in order to sort of keep the price sort of fairly accessible. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please consider subscribing, liking, or having a dialogue by pressing some of the buttons below, and many thanks and goodbye for now.